passion.
Number 1, your booty is... Hey everyone, welcome to Something Familiar. Let's talk about how to actually start reading, for real this time. So today I want to cover a few quick things. 1, why you should be reading. 2, why it may not be a habit already. And 3, how to actually maintain it as part of your routine. Number 1, your brain is a muscle and reading is squats. Your brain needs those squats to keep it thick. 3 C's. It's pull-ups to help you pull up all that new information for bar trivia, your exams, or all those internet arguments you love so much. That is to say, reading exercises your brain. When you're a kid, your brain is squishy. Think malleable, flexible. Its plasticity is very, very easily changed. Neuroplasticity, to put it very simply, is your brain's ability to form new connections. These connections are what help us learn, recall, and reorganize information that we've been given. But unlike physical exercise, you don't need to wear yourself down to the point of exhaustion to get these benefits. Number 2, books are art and authors are artists. We're living in a time right now where art is being created in abundance and authors are right in the dead center of it. I personally don't think twice about buying a band's new record or an artist's print, especially when I know that it goes directly to support them and it's actually enriching my life by making me feel something. And when it comes to authors, same deal. If it makes you feel something, if you feel a connection to the writing, to the story, support them. Find an author you like, buy their shit. Number 3, reading can be really good for you. So can vegetables and going to therapy, both of which I highly recommend, but eating your vegetables can be not great. And therapy can be expensive, but reading doesn't have to be either. There have been studies correlating links between reading and reduced stress, better sleep, improved memory, decreased anxiety, and increased focus and concentration. Whereas studies on vegetables have correlated links between broccoli and gas. Nice. And all of these positives are compounded with other benefits, like how reading can lead to better critical thinking, vocabulary, communication. And number 4, this is one that I don't see brought up very often, but it's huge. Unlike most movies and TV, books lend themselves to expression and different points of view and perspectives that other mediums can't quite accomplish. For instance, a book written in first person gives you a front row seat to their thoughts, their inclinations, their emotions, their drives, and everything that moves them forward. That's really hard to replicate on screen. It's the difference between observing and being. When you're reading, you embody these characters internally. People have radically different perspectives and experiences, so connecting with a character in this way can actually help you embody and understand why people around you are the way they are.
Books are stupid.
I thought books were smart.
No, they're stupid.
But what about audiobooks, Roman? They're books for your ears. I'm glad you asked. There's been some debate on if you get all the same benefits from a book as you do by
Oops.
And the answer is, it just kind of depends. Whether they're equal or worse than books, it really comes down to what you're listening to. If you're listening to a textbook or research paper and you actually need to retain this information, it's probably a good idea. Turn the phone off, pick up the actual book, open it up, and read it. Now, if you're listening to something hot and steamy for your local book club, you're probably fine. Now, I personally tend to listen to audiobooks for recreational purposes, for entertainment, and maybe to pad out my reading list for the entire year. But if you want to retain that information as well as if you were reading it, here's a few tips. Active listening, as in it's the only thing you're doing. You're not scrolling or doing anything else that occupies your brain. And take notes. Even jotting down ideas or quotations from the reading is going to help your brain remember this information later. Part 2, how to read really, really good. Read what interests you, and to start, only read what is interesting to you. We've all been tempted to read some classic or some new hotshot book that comes out because a couple people around us tell us we have to read this book. You have to go pick it up now. And there's no faster way to burn yourself out from reading than by doing that and not reading something that you're actually engaged with. You shouldn't be trying to read Moby Dick when the last book you purchased and actually read was a cookbook by Maddie Matheson. Some examples. If you're into music, read the band's biography. If you need to be taken out of this world and into a fantastical world, pick up something by Murakami. And if a sobering change of perspective is right up your alley, Viktor Frankl's Man's Search for Meaning will have you questioning everything you've ever thought. If it doesn't interest you, it's not going to motivate you to keep doing it. Note-taking. We touched on this earlier, but we're back. Even short, quick ones help with retention. But beyond that, when you're taking notes, you're actively involving yourself in the material. Whether you're dog-earing a page or reminding yourself to look up a word or a quote in the book, you're telling your brain this is something I'm actually interested in and not something I'm obligated to do. Active reading. This goes hand in hand with note-taking. There's a little bit more to it though. If you're really interested in what you're reading, take your time with it. Look up the places, the people, the experiences that they're describing in these words. Write down your favorite quotes. Make a journal entry with your thoughts on it. There's no time limit, so take your time. Or the exact opposite. I present to you inactive reading. There's nothing that tires me out more than feeling expected to remember every detail of the book. You don't. You're probably not in college anymore, so being expected to remember everything is not high on the list. Don't put that pressure on yourself. Skimming is fine. If something doesn't make sense, go back and start over, read it again. Not everything is going to hold your attention for the entire book, and that's okay. The most important thing is, and you've probably already guessed this, but consistency! That's right, give them a hand, folks! When you're trying to build the habit, the quality of what you're reading is not nearly as important as just doing it. Set aside a block of time for reading and make that the only requirement. 20 minutes every day reading a blog, a magazine, music or film reviews is enough to get you in the habit. Adjust accordingly, and after a couple of weeks, it's already part of your routine. And the hardest part is now over. Oh man, this one's great. Share what you're reading. Talk about it. Ask your friends what they're reading. It's a great way to share something you're into in the moment, and it keeps you invested. The same way we talk about movies, music, television in general should be the way we're speaking about books to one another. Talking about reading also reinforces the fact that it's something that you do now. You know exactly which of your friends are doing keto, yoga, or CrossFit, and that's because talking about it keeps them invested. Same deal. Okay, Roman, I get it. The reading is the bee's knees, it's the cat's pajamas, the topmost of the poppermost. But where can a rough and tumble down on his luck poor fella even find a book? Those things ain't cheap, you know. Well, fret not, my pedigree chum. Yes, books are expensive, or can be, but there are two places for me that are absolutely indispensable. The first one is half-price books. Not only do you save a shitload of money by buying from them, if they don't have something in stock at your local store, they can actually ship it from any of their sister stores around the country directly to you. And I think they'll ship it to your house for free or cheap. And the second one is, say it with me now, the library. The library cannot be fucked with. The library is free. They not only have extremely lenient borrowing periods, you can get physical books, magazines, CDs, movies, audiobooks, you name it. Video games! If you can think of it, they'll probably lend it to you. They will also go to incredible lengths to get you what you need. You want cocaine? They will go to Columbia. If they don't have a book that you want, they will either ship it from another library or contact the publisher directly to get it in for you. Listen, as a veteran of the service industry, I can promise you, I would not go to those lengths for you. I'm someone who is obsessed, and I mean obsessed, with nonfiction and learning new things. It's what holds my attention and comes easiest to me. Recently though, I've been reading more fiction, which is not usually my first choice. But to bring this all back around, reading is like exercise. Once we know what we like, we can target things we know we want to work on. I am by and large a grounded and very analytical person. Fiction allows me to break away from that and become a more creative person, especially when I'm feeling creatively stuck. It's also a healthier form of escapism for me. And I know that taking on the small commitment to reading a little bit more and the discipline behind it will lead to greater self-improvement. All in all, enjoy reading. It can be done on your terms and for the sake of your enjoyment. It's more important that you do it rather than how you do it. And now, the only question left to answer is fiction or nonfiction? And that's a wrap.